Our first reading today, many theologians say, is a prequel. I am not a fan of prequels. My favorite book, Pillars of the Earth, it was a nice trilogy, and then Ken decided to write a prequel. Don't read the prequel first. It's not anything like what you would expect from the other three. I was happy with Star Wars 4, 5, and 6, thinking that they were 1, 2, and 3. And I've already gotten a lot of grief for this, so oh well. I don't get it. 4, 5, and 6 was good. 1, 2, and 3, I still don't get. But today's one, I really, really don't like. Imagine God saying to any of your parents, take your child up onto a mountain and sacrifice them. I mean, I know times you think bad things about your children and wonder why you did what you did, but you would never harm them. That love is just incredible. And to think of all the knucklehead stuff that Abraham had done, and this is the time he's following God, I just go, we don't believe in a God that tests us. You know, Paul goes, it shows it's a sign of faith, that true faith that God would provide. And what I come up with, God gives us stories like this that don't make sense so that we are never totally at peace. Because our faith is calling us into a mystery. We're not called into a science experiment where we're going to have a verifiable answer at the end of it. We're called into faith. We're not called into something that's going to make perfect sense. Because we can't answer the questions of evil in the world to anybody's satisfaction. We can't answer why bad things happen to good people. As many books that are written, we still have those questions on a loving God and how all these things can happen to the children of God. As we're baptized in this family, though, through our baptisms, God gives us that promise that if we live as God's children, we'll know life eternal. And we'll know a joy beyond what we can even imagine in this world. So in the season of Lent, it's a great time for us to look at ourselves, and as the penitential rite we'll celebrate with our candidates and catechumens here says, we are people on a journey. We need to let go of our need to answer all the questions. If we sit there and we pretend in our faith that we're a 2 or 3-year-old and keep going, why, we never get to the point. Because it isn't about the why. It's about Jesus who came and died for us so that we knew that when we didn't have the answers, that in Jesus and in the resurrection, the answers are there. And we don't get them now. And if we did get them now, I think it might be a little bit boring because we'd just be done. We'd have everything that we needed. But the questions, the uncertainties, the stories that perplex us keep us reading and rereading and delving more deeply into that relationship we have with our God. There's a reason we have some people in the parish on their 4th time through Bible in a year. Some of us are at 3, some are at 2 times through, some are just starting. Every time we go through, there's something more that we come up with in those stories. And one person said, will this ever stop? And I said, no, because as we grow in our faith, we see these stories, these words of faith in a different way. And what may be causing a question for us today isn't going to cause a question for us at another time. As God's drawing us more deeply into this mystery, into this relationship, it isn't about the answers. It isn't about knowing why everything is the way it is. But it's getting to that place of trust, where we trust that our God is there for us, that through the cross we have that amazing promise of salvation, that life eternal, and that joy that comes with that will be ours. Then our task here is to let that light, which is our hope, shine through us. Not to get caught up in the difficult things, but to be there when bad things happen to people. To be there is that light and that hope that there is a promise of immortality to come, and that in this world, through suffering, we can relate to our God on the cross. Through the bad things, we can truly discover that relationship with our God, and we can learn that through suffering and evil and all those bad things that are around us, God is present. God will always be there, and God is there to help us. So we find ourselves getting stuck in the whys. We find ourselves in the stories that don't make sense in our human brains. We remember the cross. Remember the ultimate price that Jesus paid. That mystery, that paschal mystery, which will never be able to be fully explained in our brains, will come to us when we are two with God. And we live our lives so that we can get there. We live our lives to help other people know that promise, to know that hope, to know that it isn't about the things of this world. But in this world, we're called to be that reminder of the things from the next world. Listen to the prayer at the end of Mass, after communion, how it talks about how we are given that gift of participating in the heavenly banquet and having those gifts here on earth that we will fully understand and receive when we're in heaven. So in the end, it's good that it doesn't make sense. It's good that we have questions. It's good that we're not clear on what is happening always around us, because then we can get drawn more deeply into this mystery. We can learn to let go of that need to have the answers and the why, and realize that the only answer we really need is Jesus, and that as we trust and we learn to love our God, we know that it will be all right. We know that our God is there, and even though we can't answer them in this world, we'll have peace in the next.